right, you just heard that. It's the 7 o'clock hour, folks. 7 o'clock on the dot. That means we have an hour left here. And we were into a really, really interesting discussion here on issues and answers. Please give us a call, 219-885-1371. The number again is 219-885-1371. I am Scott Cannon. Over there is Reverend Delwyn Campbell. And we were talking about the R. Kelly verdict. And what I really wanted to get into you with Rev for the last few weeks is, how do you as a parent vet who you can trust around your children?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we get to know them. I
Right.
mean, the people who we allow to be around our children are people that we have known for some time. But
Right.
even to this day, in fact, Lanita's, it's a hard and fast rule.
Mhm.
Our daughters will never have sleepovers with anyone,
Yeah.
and no one will be sleeping over at our house because we don't want anybody making any accusations,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't want to have to deal with any questionable activity at someone else's house.
Mm-hmm.
Our children have beds to sleep in, and they can sleep in their bed every
Right.
night. They can play with your child during the day, and then we going home, or y'all going home, but everybody going back to their own home.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like, for example, babysitting,
Mm-hmm.
the only places where our daughters have been where we weren't present was at a licensed daycare facility, or my mom,
Right.
or my son.
Right.
That's it.
Right. I definitely understand that. It really got me scared the heck out of me. Like I said, I'm not even a parent, listening to Simone Biles and them talk about their own doctor, and you hear about these gymnastics coaches and things like sports. Like, and you look at R. Kelly. R. Kelly was These families were essentially leveraging their future on R. Kelly. Like they were leveraging, like they were essentially like depending on R. Kelly, a man with an already questionable, a well-known history of molesting children, to make a better life for their children. I mean, it's so, and you hear about all these Hollywood pedophiles. There's this great documentary about Hollywood called "An Open Secret." I think everybody should watch that. It goes deep into all the people who do shows on like Nickelodeon and other different TV channels and other Hollywood movies, different sitcoms and whatnot. The type of They have pedophiles working the cameras. They have pedophiles who are casting agents and directors. And some of these people actually send their kids in there, essentially bartering them up to the predators in the Hollywood
I mean,
music industry.
let's be honest. There is there's no other way to say it than to say, when you are putting your child into that arena, you are attempting to profit off of your child's talent, your
Right.
child's appearance, your child's cuteness.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing. And there are two types of people out there, or three types, I'll say. There are those that are legitimate. There are those that are just trying to make money off of your desire to achieve this fantasy. And there are those who are looking for prey.
Right.
And you can't tell which are which.
Right.
Other than the ones that are just trying to hustle, you can pick them up kind of quickly because, first thing out of their mouth will be how much money they need you to give them
Right.
for the photos and for this and for that. So, you can pick them out pretty quickly. Although, again, there are some parents that are so desperate that they'll spend that money,
Right.
you know. But then there's still those other two groups left, the ones that are actually legitimate and the ones that are just looking to make a score. And, I mean, legitimate talent agencies exist. They have records. The Better Business Bureau knows who they are. There are things you can do to vet these sort of companies, but you better do it.
Right.
Don't just rely on the niceness of that person or the wonderful things that they say about your child.
Yeah.
You know, vet these, and even then, that still doesn't give you 100% guarantee.
Right.
Because again, MGM was a legitimate company, you know, and yet some of those directors were using the power and prestige that they had to take advantage of people.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing guarantees that everything will be all right, but you got to know where you're going with your child. You got to know the things that you're contemplating doing with your child. And nowadays, again, because we live right adjacent to an information highway. You know, data is there. All you got to do is look it up and then
Mm-hmm.
sift through it and take your time into it. I know people who do have their children who are modeling and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that everything about that is bad, but you do have to be careful and
Yes, you
be
do.
actively involved. And everyone that I know whose children are involved in that, they are actively involved. They know what their children are doing. They know where they're doing photo shoots and things like that. In most cases, they're the manager.
Mm-hmm. Right. I absolutely agree 100%. Do not let these dollar signs blind you. And I think that, like, less people want to talk about that. And that's another thing that's frustrating me about these parents. Like I said, I even said the same thing about Michael Jackson. I know a lot. I don't want people calling here attacking me. I know the Jackson people are uh, very deep and very passionate. I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm just saying ain't no way in heck I'm gonna leave my kids around no grown man who's gonna say he wants to sleep in the same room with them, much less the same bed as them. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's 100% innocent, it's just not appropriate. But people still have dollar signs in their eyes, and they think, well, R. Kelly or Michael Jackson or whatever singer or rapper or movie star, actor, actress is gonna help us get out of whatever. You do not want to be depending on your 13-year-old, your 15-year-old, your 12-year-old to get your family out of poverty. Do not put that burden on no little kid.
Exactly.
And that's where a lot of this starts. A lot of them are putting this burden on children to get you got to get the whole family out of poverty. That's how a lot of these child stars end up broken, messed up anyway. I was looking at one of these celebrity shows, and they were talking about uh, this this former Disney star named Bella Thorne, and she was talking about how basically she did all this before she was 18 years old. All these TV shows on Nick and Disney and whatnot. She found out she was broke. She had nothing,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Gary Coleman, same thing. He had nothing. All these people, Todd Bridges, all of them. Like you look at so many of these people end up with nothing, and a lot of them end up being molested and end up with nothing. They end up victimized by people in the music industry, in the movie industry, and even what you were trying to get them involved in, it isn't even worth it because they end up broke anyway. And a lot of times they end up having to do desperate stuff as adults because not only are they messed up from being sexually abused, but a lot of them are messed up from having their families take advantage of them financially. One of the girls from Family Matters turned into a porn queen.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a huge scandal about 10 years ago, I want to say. The girl from the youngest daughter from uh, Family Matters with Urkel,
Right.
you know,
She went upstairs one day to go to bed
and
and
never
never
came
came
back.
back.
But if you actually look at it, they said it was because her mother was making all kinds of crazy demands and saying, well, my daughter's the star of the show now, and you got to do this and this, because she was essentially subsidizing the lifestyle of her entire family. That was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And you put her in that position, and God knows how many people in that industry took advantage of your desperation to get that money, get that bag, and now she ends up as a porn queen. That's what I'm talking about. That's the type of stuff that we have to as a society. You know, we just can't look at R. Kelly or Chris Brown or Michael Jackson when people have accused him, or other people, even Harvey Weinstein or everybody you can think of who's been accused, Bill Cosby, whoever, every single one of them have had lots of people around them who was willing to say, I don't care about accusation. Like I said, if a person got accusation, even if they innocent, 100% innocent, I'm gonna be side-eyeing them. Especially now, I'm gonna be side-eyeing them anyway, just because I think that, like you said, doing your due diligence as a parent and a guardian, you should be doing that. But especially if they got allegations, I'm gonna be side-eyeing and be like, okay, like I know I'm never leaving my kid alone with this person, or I'm never leaving my girlfriend alone with this person. It don't matter whether it's true or not. It could be, there could be a complete misunderstanding. But why even chance it? Why even chance it? The bag is not that important, folks. It is not.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about it. Long time ago, the court jester, or the what did they call him? The gladiator. They were not the top of the food chain.
Right.
They were not the richest people in society. They were towards the bottom.
That's true.
The court jester was the guy who made the king laugh, until when he didn't make the king laugh, he gets thrown into prison.
Right.
The gladiator existed to fight for the entertainment of the Roman citizens until they died.
Yeah.
But they didn't get rich.
No.
But their modern day, counterparts, for many, that's the premier way of achieving wealth.
Right.
Is becoming an entertainer, whether it's in athletics or cinema or music. And we don't really think much about what sort of value structure got put into place that made this happen. It wasn't always this way.
Right. I agree. A lot of it, I think, had to start when we started being able to quantify how valuable. Like, if you think about it, right before the record player existed, musicians had to go from town to town to perform, and you had to pay and go see them perform, or you had to see them perform. And so there was no way to copyright music. There was no way to replicate music. Once you could replicate music, and I could be in your house in Chicago, in your house in LA, in your house in England, and France, and Germany. Right. Now there's a way for me to essentially quantify my worth to the music industry. And same thing with pictures.
Number of record sales. You're right. Because before that, it was the amount of music you could write, the number of songs you could write. But that valuation was dependent upon the number of people who could play your music.
Right.
So that meant that you could only become a wealthy songwriter if you had a society that valued the arts, where children were taught to play the piano as part of their growing up. Well, with the rise of the recording industry, that all changed. You're right. It was no longer, we no longer seem to value the songwriter as much as we value the song performer. Now, it's still true that in terms of the rules of how you get paid in the music industry, the songwriter is, makes a lot of money because they sell their songs to a variety of people. They don't get paid a lot of money per song, but a whole bunch of people playing your song gets you a little bit of money. Well, a lot of pennies, eventually pennies turn into dimes, and dimes turn into dollars, and dollars turn into hundreds, and hundreds turn into a retirement nest egg.
Right. I absolutely agree. And another thing that's come up is people are saying, should R. Kelly's music be banned? I personally don't think R. Kelly's music or anybody's music should ever be banned. I don't believe in cancel culture, as I've said here on the show. The music didn't molest nobody, okay? And there's lots of other musicians who played on those songs. I mean, lots of great musicians. They tried to do this a few years ago with Michael Jackson. Oh my God, because, and then it come to find out that a lot of the allegations those boys made weren't even true. So, so like, to me, if you're gonna go that route, I'm not going to tell people what they can and cannot listen to, what they should and should not listen to. But all I'm going to tell you is, as somebody who's a musicologist, because I study music, I went to Emerson. Y'all know I'm from the School for the Visual and Performing Arts.
Right.
I love the music. It's always been my great love. I've watched enough behind the music and enough biographies, read enough biographies on musicians to know that once you start opening that Pandora's box of canceling anybody who's ever done anything bad, oh my God, the amount of, I mean, you could go back to people like Elvis. Elvis started dating Priscilla when she was 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go cancel R. Kelly for marrying Aaliyah when she was 15, then you got to cancel Elvis for you can't be playing Elvis every week. People like David Bowie was having sexual relationships with numerous 8th graders. Okay. People like Aerosmith. Ted Nugent actually adopted a teenage girl, and this was in his Behind the Music. I remember watching it back in the 90s when I was still at Emerson. He actually adopted a teenage girl just so he became her guardian. Her parents signed her over to him.
Wow.
So that they could have a sexual relationship.
Wow.
And so that's who's on Fox News all the time telling everybody he's a conservative. So like I said, this is it Behind the Music. Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page kidnapped a teenage girl, kept her basically hostage in his house for years in the 70s, for about 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, in the 70s. So when you read all these biographies on musicians, rock and roll musicians, R&B musicians, you know, whether it's people like James Brown knocking Tammy Terrell upside the head, you know, a lot of these people, Miles Davis, beat up lots of women. I mean, once you get into that cancel, I'm going to cancel this guy because he did something wrong, man, you're going to have a horrible record collection. I'll just say that. Your record and movies too. Marlon Brando was a degenerate. Everybody look up, Google Marlon Brando's proclivities and the things that he would do when he go down to Cuba. And like, he was a sick man, but The Godfather's still a great movie. All I say is I learned to separate the art from the artist, and that's all I can suggest for others. What say you, Rev?
No, I understand what you're saying. The reality is, you know, there's a thin line between super talented, created, and depraved. And some folks that are really super creative, you know, they bounce on that line a lot.
Yep.
I understand a lot of R. Kelly's music drew inspiration from, you know,
gospel.
His tortured relationship with women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his backstory fueled his front story, but we didn't necessarily know what we were listening to.
Yes.
But there you go. When you're stepping to his music, you're not dissecting the lyrics to try to determine what dark past story it came from.
Mm-hmm.
You just grooving to the song and finding your meaning in it.
Right.
Because that's the thing about, especially, you know, songs involving relationships. It's sort of like you find your, I mean, look at it this way. What in the world would 10-year-old Michael Jackson know about relationships?
Right.
And yet he sings, you know, I'll Be There and Got to Be There and Sugar Daddy and ABC. And we heard them songs and we took our meaning from them and we enjoyed those songs and danced to them.
Right. I absolutely agree. Okay, folks, it's already 7:20.
Yeah.
Jesus, we got to get to.
We haven't talked
Gary.
About, yeah.
What's good about Gary? We're going to talk about that. Please give us a call. We want to hear from you here. 219-885-1371. What's good about Gary, Indiana? And, you know, just hell, if anybody listening in the region, period, if you want to tell us about where you're at in your neighborhood, your community, because all you hear is negativity about the city of Gary.
And in a larger sense about the region.
Yeah, and about the region. There's definitely some good in this area because we produce so many good people. So please give us a call, 219-885-1371. And I'll tell you again. You are listening to Scott and the Rev on WLTH 1370 AM. Give us a call, 219-885-1371.